What were some of the the things that kind of, when you had Elijah, like what were some of the things, maybe some like preconceived expectations going in that kind of like you realize like, oh, it's not like that. Like when it comes to being a dad, like,
I guess sort of the whole adage, you're never really ready.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, this is going to sound kind of bad. Like, so prepare yourselves. It didn't hit me until I held him for the first time. It wasn't real.
No, you know what? I agree.
Yeah. I knew she was pregnant and like, I went to the doctor's visits with her. I saw the fetus grow. Like I saw all that.
Yeah.
But I saw her give birth. And until I held him in my arms for the first time, like instantly, like that light switch flipped, and that's when I knew, like, okay, right, like I got a purpose now. So that's when, and I think that really helped guide my decision, obviously. But like, I felt it in my bones, and like it's just something you can't explain.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Proud Papi podcast. I'm excited you joined us this week because I've invited my brother-in-law, Shane, onto the show this week. We're going to get all into his story, talk about blended families, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. All right. Well, you're here.
I'm here.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, I know. We were actually joking right before he showed up. Jana, she was like, oh, so what are you guys talking about tonight? I'm like, oh, we got Shane coming through. She's like, oh, you guys are going to grill him, huh? I'm like, yep. My first question is going to be like, what are your intentions with my sister?
Yeah, there you go. A little late for that, man.
So
5 years later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was 5 years, huh? You guys have been together since I was in San Diego when you guys were together.
Yep. 2019.
Right. So
our first date was the day after Valentine's Day.
In 2019.
2019.
And how did you guys meet?
The internet.
The internet.
Yeah.
We'll MySpace
leave it at that. Yeah. Yeah, MySpace. So we matched.
Okay. What was your guys' first date? What did you guys do?
Osceolas.
Okay.
Well, if you want to call it a date, it was a meetup.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we
met up
drinks
there.
Or just drinks, hang out.
Yeah.
She's gonna kill me. I had a backup plan.
Okay.
So
in case it went bad?
In case it went bad.
Or in case she was a bad date?
Yeah. Just in case I had to get out of there. I had Brandon show up unannounced.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
we pretended to meet there.
Yeah.
And so just he happened to walk in the door. But no, I mean, yeah, we met up there. Just hit it off super well. And then our second date went to get ramen. And she's not a ramen person at all. Yeah. And so, but she met me there and, I mean, the rest is history. We're kind of inseparable ever since then, really.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I honestly don't remember when I found out you guys were dating or together. I just honestly, bro, my life in 2019 was kind of a whirlwind too.
Yeah. So
I just remember on our way back home, knowing I'm going to meet this guy, Shane. And, and so I don't really remember. Jana was saying that the first day that she met you, you made a comment to her saying that you're a keeper and that you're not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's probably sounds about right.
I was like, wow, this guy really was cocky, huh? He's confident.
Yeah, that's like me.
I mean, I think that speaks a lot about you. I feel like you're a pretty confident person and like who you are.
Yeah.
Just kind of your communication, the way you kind of been like around our family, again, when I first met you, I didn't really know about you before. Didn't really have a preconceived what's this guy doing? I didn't. Again, my life was crazy then, so I was coming back to try to figure stuff out. But you're here because you're a dad, and this podcast is all about fatherhood.
Yes, sir.
And not only are you a dad, but you are a proud dad.
Very proud. Yeah,
and so I kind of wanted to bring you on to kind of share your story. I think your story is unique. Honestly, I think your story is a lot more relatable. Not a lot more relatable, but it is relatable. Happens quite a bit. And so kind of tell me a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, family dynamic. What was that like?
I was actually born in Germany.
Germany?
Yeah, Bremerhaven, Germany.
Okay.
It's I believe it's a northeastern fishing town.
Okay.
My mom was stationed there back in the 80s after she was married to my brother. Mm-hmm. She got stationed there.
Married to your brother's dad.
Married to my brother's dad, correct. That'd be a little weird.
Not that kind of German family, but different kind of German.
Yeah, right. And so, but yeah, so born there. Pretty soon after, moved back stateside. I ended up, when I was about 3 to 4, I lived with my aunt out in Georgia for about a year while my mom was stationed in Saudi Arabia for Operation Desert Storm.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so she was stationed out there for a tour because she was active duty military. Then when she came back, we lived in Georgia for a little bit, and then found our way to Colorado. Yeah, and I was there till about 13, and then she met a guy, and she goes, "We're moving to California." And we did not want to come to California.
Yeah,
so, everyone has preconceived notions of California when you've never been here. So we try to look up Santa Rosa on a map, and we're looking down by LA, because we have no idea, so we're like
we see a lot of Santas, but not a lot of Santa Rosa down there.
No, we're like, it's not even on a map. Like, where are you taking us? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then we moved here, and honestly, I love Santa Rosa. Yeah. I love Northern California. People ask where I'm from, and I say here now. Yeah. Because this is where I grew. This is where I found myself, and I grew into the person I am. And it was a whirlwind as a child. We moved a lot. Single mother, raising 2 boys. Yeah. She did everything she could. But she was working a lot. So, I grew up kind of on my own, doing my own thing all the time. My brother never wanted to hang out with me. Yeah. What's the age difference between you and your brother? 4 years. Okay. So,
that makes sense. I mean, Eli was just a year younger, and I didn't want to hang out with Eli.
Yeah. That'd be like you hanging out with, Narcy.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't really hang out. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Zach for sure. I didn't hang out with Zach.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, because, I was 8, he was 12, 10, 14. He's with his friends doing his thing. Yeah. I tried to tag along, but, never got too far. So, but yeah, so been out here since 2001.
Okay. So you were in Colorado for what?
8 years.
8 years. Okay.
From when I was, I think about 5 till 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you moved out here that is a tough age to move when you're a teenager.
Yeah. My brother was going into his senior year in high school.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, dude. And the culture shock of moving from, we lived in Colorado Springs. A lot of people hear Colorado, you don't associate a lot of negative things with it, I guess. Yeah. But it was it was a little rougher than Santa Rosa was at that time. Okay. And so, it was a little more culturally diverse than Santa Rosa was as well. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of black when we moved out here. Right. And so, he went from an inner city school to Maria Creo. Right. Oh, geez. And he stuck out like a sore thumb, his afro, saggy jeans, all that. And so, he had a rough time. I mean, we both did. There was an adjustment for sure. Right. Yeah.
So, you were born in Germany. You didn't spend, how long were you guys in Germany for, once you were born? Do you know?
I think within the year they were gone. So not much time at all.
And your brother was there in Germany with you guys as well? Because you guys have separate dads.
Correct.
So so your stepdad, your brother's dad. Yeah. How long was he in the picture? Because I mean I've only met your brother a few times, so obviously I haven't sat down and really talked with him about his story and stuff. But was he around with you guys when you guys were in Colorado or
no? I know because they were married. My mom and his dad were married, right. And then they had separated before she got stationed in Germany, as far as I know. So when we moved back, I mean, he was mentioned a couple times that I can remember growing up, but there wasn't much talk of it.
So he was already out of the picture when you came.
Oh, 100%.
When you were born. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. And so that's your brother's dad, but you've never met your dad.
No, never met my dad. Don't know his name. Couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
Right.
Anything of that sort.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but I think this is so important. Like, I think it's a big part of your story is that you've never met your dad and you don't know anything about him.
Nothing.
And like, talk me through like growing up. Like, there was never ever like a, you know what, I'm going to ask mom because I want to know. Like,
yeah. You know, Narcy we've had this conversation a few times. She'll, man, you really never wanted to know? Like, you never questioned? Like, you were never curious? She's like, that's just so foreign to me because of how close our relationship was with our dad, you know? Right. And I'm just like, well, no. I mean, I don't know. As a kid, like, you kind of just grow up in your environment and you don't know anything else besides that, right? And so it just never seemed to come up. I mean, I had questions here and there and I thought about it, but you know, there's a fear tied into that and kind of not knowing and then finding out the truth. I mean, my brother would tease me, say I was adopted, you know, all the big brother stuff. And so just kind of having that, I don't know, I just never had much motivation to sort of ask my mom. I was scared of possibly rehashing negative emotions for her. Yeah. Things like that. And so, you know, and the way we were raised, you know, we were taught just kind of bottle it up. You don't talk about that kind of stuff. And so I got really good at kind of just bearing it down. Yeah. And, you know, like
at what age did you find out that you and your brother had separate dads? Or was it always just something that you knew?
I think it was something that I just kind of unconsciously knew. Okay. Just because of, I mean, my mom, you've met them, but they're both darker skinned. Yeah. I'm lighter complexion. Right. You know, my hair's a little straighter than theirs. And so just, you know, and then my brother took every opportunity to tease me about it. And so, And so, just, I mean, I guess it was like an unconscious thing. Like I always kind of knew, but you know, I still had comfort. I still had love. Like, there was nothing as a young child that I felt I was missing out on until I started to get a little older. And then you start to notice, like, man, you know, he's going on a camping trip with his dad. He's going fishing with his dad. Yeah. You know, he's playing ball with his dad. That's when you kind of start to pick up on some of these subtle things. And again, I got good at bearing stuff. And so that's what I did. And kind of just buried it down.
So, so then what was there like a fatherly person in your life or?
No, I mean, there wasn't, you know, different era than the kids nowadays, right? Yeah. Being stuck in the house was a punishment. We were always out running the streets. My mom was working 2 jobs. So again, my brother and I we kind of fended for ourselves a lot. I mean, in the apartment complex we lived in, there was some gang members that were the older guys that, you know, I'm following my brother's footsteps. So he's gravitating towards that lifestyle. Right. And so, those were their only male influences I had around and they were far from positive. You know, luckily, and that was part of the reason we moved here was because my mom wanted to get us away from that. My brother was going down a pretty bad path. He was in Scared Straight program. Like he was making some poor decisions. And that's just a lack of guidance is what it amounts to. And so that was part of the reason we came here. So all the male influences we had were pretty negative. I mean, we were the kids holding the money during their dice games, like while they're partying and stuff like that. Like just, you know, when I think back on it, just stupid stuff, you know? And, you know, and that's one thing that I kind of feel like this is why I like to be so involved with like youth sports and coaching the kids is because I want to be like that positive influence for some kid that I don't know his story. Right. And so I feel like if I had that, I could have probably had a little bit better guidance as a child for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see you involved in, you know, the sports. I see you involved with the kids. And, you know, I agree. Like I grew up, and I don't know about you, but I grew up like playing organized sports and being around coaches that I honestly I loved them. Like they were like awesome men that kind of taught me the game of baseball or whatever. And so I think it's important to note that like here you are, you're growing up, you don't have any like really positive male figures in your life to kind of point you in the right direction. And then you move here to Santa Rosa, you're a teenager, and eventually you have your first son. Mm-hmm. So kind of tell me about that experience.
I mean, growing up the way I did, I never dreamed of the life I ended up with now.
Yeah.
I never wanted to get married. I didn't want kids. Wanted nothing to do with kids. Yeah. Like, to be honest with you, I was a pretty selfish individual, but that just came by nature because I was constantly alone. I was constantly, doing my own thing, just kind of coming and going as I please. And so when I found out I was going to be having Elijah with his mother, obviously I was 22 when he was born. So I'm still a young, dumb kid,
right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
But I tell Elijah all the time, you saved my life. Because even still then, I was still making poor decisions. I was still getting involved in stuff I probably shouldn't be doing. And, at that point in my life, I had a decision to make.
Yeah.
Either I step up to the plate and I do what's right, or I could run and I could just not care.
Yeah.
And just me as a person, that's not who I am. So I made the decision to step up. I didn't want to be what I thought my father was to me, which was just someone who wasn't there. I just could never picture doing that to someone else. And so I stepped up and I tried to do what I thought was right at the time. His mother and I tried to have a relationship. It was pretty toxic, to be honest. But we had a falling out. And so at that point in time, again, I had another choice to make. We tried to make this family dynamic work. It didn't work. I'm actually the one who stepped away from the relationship. And I got a lot of grief for kind of breaking up our family. Mm-hmm. But I knew in my heart of hearts it was the right thing to do. Being in a co-parenting relationship is definitely better than being in a toxic relationship with two parents together. Mm. And so that was another decision I made there. And kind of the rest has written itself, man.
Yeah. We had a guy named Eric. He was here a few weeks back kind of sharing his story. And he had a similar story as yours where, he was with somebody and they had a daughter, didn't work out. They split up. But what I really admired about him and about you is like, even though the relationship didn't turn out the way that you hoped it did, mm-hmm. like it wasn't going to take away from your effort in being a dad, and continuing to show up for your child, continuing to be there regardless of like, and then also finding a way to make it work with mom too, that's a huge
toughest thing
because you're right. It really is like fight or flight. It really is like we're done. And so that makes my relationship with my kid done too. Instead, it's like, you know what? Like it would be easy if we didn't have to deal with each other, but because we have a child, like it's going to hurt, but we're going to figure a way to make it work. Right. Like for the sake of the child. So, right. What were some of the, like the things that kind of, when you had Elijah, like what were some of the things, maybe some like preconceived expectations going in that kind of like you realize like, oh, it's not like that. Like when it comes to being a dad, like,
I guess sort of the whole adage, you're never really ready.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, this is going to sound kind of bad. Like, so prepare yourselves. It didn't hit me until I held him for the first time. It wasn't real.
No, you know what? I agree.
Yeah. I knew she was pregnant and like I went to the doctor's visits with her. I saw the fetus grow. Like I saw all that.
Yeah.
But I saw her give birth And until I held him in my arms for the first time, like instantly, like that light switch flipped, and that's when I knew, like, okay, right, I got a purpose now. So that's when, and I think that really helped guide my decision, obviously. But like, you know, I felt it in my bones, and like it's just something you can't explain. And so that's kind of the number one preconceived notion was just like that shattered away. But I mean, you know, just I found kids are very resilient, man. Yeah. Like you can make so many mistakes and they still look at you like you know everything, like you are like that person for them. And so, you know, just kind of realizing like I don't have to be perfect for him, just have to be present, you know, just give them my attention, give them me. And that's all they really want. They don't care about what you spend on them or what you're buying them. Right. It's just being there and being present. And so, you know, there's some guilt I feel with Elijah because when he was, you know, about Gabriel's age, you know, 2.5, 3, like I was still partying, drinking and smoking and doing my thing. And I was there, but I wasn't always present. Yeah. And like looking back, I'm just like, man, like, I just feel like there's just so much missed opportunity that I had with him. And like, obviously, like we have a great relationship, but there's some remorse that I feel in that, and just, you know, I guess kind of never feeling like good enough, you know? And so, but you know, I figured it out. He's alive. He's thriving. I don't know if you saw his report card today.
Did, dude.
So he, you know, all A's and B's, you know, he's going to Puerto Rico in June. And so, yeah, man, just kind of realizing that, you know, if you come from a place of love, right? If all your actions are guided by love, like you can never really fail them, you know, just keep that in mind. And that's kind of what I've done. Just kind of always let my heart guide me where I should be and what I should do. Yeah. And I feel like I've made a lot of right decisions since then.
Right. So let's continue to move down a little bit. You know, you have Elijah. Elijah's growing up, and then, like we mentioned in the beginning, you met my sister. Now, my sister, kind of similar situation that she found herself in as well as you, where previous relationships didn't work out. She has a child, and so those first, you know, few weeks of you guys have made your relationship official. Mm-hmm. What was that like, knowing that, hey, like I have a kid and you have a kid? Like, you know, kind of like talk through, you know, just like how do you like handle that relationship with that kid?
Well, it's delicate, honestly, man. Like there's a lot to it. There's probably a lot more that I didn't know was going to happen than I ever expected to happen. Yeah. And to be frank, like, I don't know if I would have stuck it out had I known some of this stuff was going to go down the way it did, but being in it, like, we found a way to work through it. Right. But, you know, just, there's just so much dynamic to it, right? Introducing Elijah to her, her introducing Vincent to me, introducing them to each other, introducing her to Alicia. Like, there was a lot that had to happen for this to be successful. So many opportunities for this to fail. You know, one of the things that Elijah held on to for a really long time when they first met, because Vinny was Gabriel. Right. He essentially, when we met, Elijah was Vinny, Vinny was Gabriel. When we met, like, put that into perspective, right? Wow. Crazy. Yeah. And so Vinny made an offhand comment that, like, Elijah ruined his life, and he held on to that for a good solid 2 years. And it was just like, remember that one time, Vinny, you told me that I ruined your life? And like, you know, but that's a dynamic you don't think about. It's like, what if our kids don't like each other? Right. We could love each other to death, but if our kids hate each other, like, that is going to make things very difficult. Now, luckily, Vinny's a sweetheart, man, and he's the sweetest kid ever. And Elijah's a knucklehead at times, but he comes from a place of love. But, you know, one of my biggest fears going into it too was introducing Narcy to Alicia, because I had a previous relationship that failed because of that dynamic, because because I didn't put her above Alicia. I have respect for her as Elijah's mother. And like, I made that very clear with Narcy from the beginning. Like, this relationship is important to me. Like, I'm going to foster this relationship. She's not going anywhere. Yeah. So we have to find a way to make this work.
For sure.
And my ex, just didn't happen. And so at first it was kind of rough.
Yeah.
Now I think Alicia likes Narcy more than she likes me, which is good. You know, I'm blessed for that. But you know, just again, there was just a lot that had to go right. And you know, the whole situation with Josh at the time, that was just something I was not really ready for. I mean, it was a little easier because he was sort of out of the picture at the time, but when he stepped back in, that was another like slap of reality to me.
Right.
That holy, this is going to be a little harder than I thought.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and then finding it within myself to manage those emotions involved with so many of those situations. Like even today, like I don't have it down. There's days where like Vinny will go to a visit and come back, and like I feel a type of way about it, you know, and I have to like, okay, take a step back. Like it's not his fault. Like, you know, and then I have to kind of remind myself things like that. So, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but there it is. So.
No, I mean, I think, you know, so the term blended family, right?
Mm-hmm. And modern family.
Like Eli and I have talked about it before. Like, you know, it's a situation. It's a family dynamic that's becoming more and more, you know,
common.
Yes, thank you. So, I think it's important to like. It was one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because that's not my experience in how I was raised or my family, but it is common. So like, let's talk about it. And I think there's a lot of different dynamics, right? You talk about the relationship of Elijah and Vinny, your oldest and my sister's oldest. And it's funny because like a comment like that from Vinny where he tells Elijah, like, you ruined my life, is literally a comment that any other brother would make to his brother. Right. You know, so, and now you look at them and they're brothers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they behave and they treat each other like brothers. And so to see like kind of them mesh together is really a testament to you, Narcy, and Alicia, and how well that you guys have been able to kind of say, hey, this is a situation, but we're a family, you know. It looks a little different, but we're a family. Like we're all right. Like we're all together. We're all on the same team. And because at the end of the day, it's about them. It's about the kids. Like you guys are trying your best to set them up for success, right? So the way that those two guys like get along is a testament to the three of you and how well you've been able to kind of foster that relationship, right? Right.
Yeah. I mean, and like. Hats off to Alicia too. Right. Like I know it was hard, you know, I know it was hard for her as well. Yeah. But you know, she's grown, I've grown, Narcy's grown. Like we all, again, like you said, we had to just kind of put some of our personal feelings aside. Luckily, like your sister's amazing and anyone can get along with her. So like that was really easy, but, there was still opportunity for it to go south, you know? And in all honesty, I think a lot of the blending of our family is a testament to your family and your parents. And they opened their arms up to me and Elijah and allowed us to come into your family. And, you know, your mom treated me like a son from day one. And like that's just mean a lot to me, you know, because like I see your guys' family dynamic and like that's what I've always wanted. Like that's what I've always strived for. And I use that and as motivation because this is what I want to be. This is what I want for my family. Like, you know, the kids want to come back home for holidays and spend time with the parents. Like that was just kind of like, what? Like that happens, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just so cool, you know? And, I don't know, it gave me something like a model, like that's for the first time in my life. Like I had like a real, like, okay, here's what I can do. Like, you know, something for me to look at and draw from, you know? And so, you know, there's a big part of that is due to your parents, man. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, you know, and they'll be the first ones to say, you know, they were able to implement what they could with us because of Papa Nana, right? Or even my dad. My dad and his parents, like the work ethic that they taught my dad, right? Like, so then that's why it's important. Like, and again, this is still part of your story where you weren't given that opportunity to learn that, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn it and implement it in your own family, right? So,
yeah, I mean, you know, just, and again, I mean, I know part of what we talked about a little bit before we got on, you know, about kind of just giving my kids what I didn't have as growing up. I mean, a lot of that rings true. You know, it's just like I knew what I felt I was lacking as a child, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be that. You know, like, you know, I wish I had a mentor or a coach, someone to push me. You know, I feel like I'm a pretty smart person, you know, and I feel like I could have probably reached a little higher had I had someone putting their foot up my butt every so often, you know what I mean? And I just didn't have that. And, you know, there was times in school where I felt, you know, this is a little too easy, and, you know, just kind of having some guidance definitely would have been there. And so that's just kind of what I do. I'm just trying to be what I think they need. A lot of the times I'm shooting from the hip, man. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm just like, we'll figure it out as we get there, you know, and hopefully they don't die on the way. So, but yeah, man, it's just, and again, like what I said earlier, as long as you come from a place of love and everything that you do, you keep them at the forefront of your mind. Yeah. Like, no decision can be wrong. And so that's just constantly what I try to do. Man, what does Elijah need right now? You mean, okay, he hasn't cleaned his room. Like, all right, I gotta go put my foot up his butt. Dude, get up, go clean your room, you know? Right. Vinny, you know, same deal. Like, come on, man. You know, and that is in a whole nother touchy subject in and of itself, because you know the struggles that he's had with this whole situation with his father. And, you know, it's hard for me to toe the line of how aggressive I can be with him and how, you know, trying to motivate him and give him confidence within himself, because he's so smart. He's good at everything he does, but he just lacks confidence at times. And so trying to, you know, toe that line of giving him confidence without pushing him a little too hard is tough. And so, and then now with the babies, it's just like we're doing it all over again. Right. And so, like, I feel like this time around, though, like, I'm a little bit better prepared. Like, I know some of the do's and don'ts. And so, you know, it's been a little easier. Yeah. And it's a fun ride. So, yeah, you know, I was telling Ruthie today, you know, she sent me a picture of Dalia, and I was like, you know, well, you know, she's my daughter, my only daughter, but I was like, but man, like, she has it so much easier. And I mean, sure, because she's a girl, but she has it so much easier than Abel did, because I just know so much more and know things about myself that I didn't even think about before, right? Like, for me, when I look back with Abel, I'm like, man, I had no patience. I had no, yeah, man, I just didn't really have a lot of patience with him. I really didn't. You know, I expected a lot out of him when he couldn't, you know, do what I wanted him to do. 6 months, you're not walking yet? Come on, dude, figure it out. So, I mean, but kind of explain, like, you know, now that you have, right, you guys have Elijah, Vinny, and then Gabriel, and now TT girl. But kind of like explain, like, now that you have little ones, some of those things that, you know, you didn't know with Elijah that you're now implementing, like, what's that been like, you know, that you're able to kind of, oh, well, now that I've experienced a little bit. Well, I mean, honestly, dude, and again, like I sort of touched on it earlier, is just being present. Yeah. Like I say with Elijah, a lot of times, like I had him on weekends to start with. Like when her and I split and we went through our custody battle. Yeah. Like I had nothing, dude. I started from zero. You know, she wanted supervised visits with him, and I was not going for that. Yeah. And luckily the judge agreed. And so, you know, just having worked back to getting him, but still being there, but not being present, you know? So with Gabriel and Tiana, if I'm having a bad day at work, like I do my darndest to leave it at the door.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it trickles in, and you know, I'm tired and they're a lot.
Yeah.
Gabriel's a lot. He has a lot of energy. And so just trying to be present and just, you know, if I'm on my phone trying to watch, you know, the game or something and they're in my face, like sometimes I'm annoyed, but I have to like, what's more important? This 3 seconds of attention I'm gonna give him or watching Klay Thompson break another three? You know, so like put the phone down, dude. Like give them that time, you know, and that's the one thing that I feel like I'm doing better this time around. You know, just kind of being more present in the moments and just, you know, looking at them and admiring them and the little things they're doing and just, you know, and that's part of, you know, my sobriety too, you know, I'm on 3.5 years now. And so just, it's all just kind of hand in hand. Yeah. And again, that's why sometimes I feel a little bit of regret with Elijah and stuff, but you know, he still has a good life. So just, I would say the number one thing is like, again, just being present and trying to have the patience. I don't always have it. Yeah. I gotta sometimes go upstairs and just tell Narcy, hey, I just need 5. And I just get to go upstairs and close the door when I get home and kind of like decompress and take my work clothes off and then all right, let me put my basketball shorts on and then I'll come down and you know and then all right, I'm here, I've arrived. And so isn't
it crazy what just changing out of your work clothes
my mom yells at me like all the time. I'll go home and FaceTime her. She's like, you're still in your work clothes? I'm like, I kind of just sat down. She's like, no, like you need to change. Like it's true, man. It's just I don't know. It's like kind of just taking the day off almost, right? Like is what it is. All the stress from work and things like that. And so, just it's funny. So.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. It was such a great conversation with Shane. We had to do it into 2 parts. So part 2 is coming next week. I love having guests on the show because we get to hear their story. But I want to hear from you. Let me know, what do you prefer? Episodes where we bring on guests to share their story or topics around fatherhood? Let me know right now. And if you love content just like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We drop new episodes every week and they're all about fatherhood. Hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, peace out.